Hey everybody, welcome welcome all to the weekly BTB Roundtable here on Blogging the Boys. You guys already know the drill, but I'm your host this week. I'm Jess Nevarez, and I'm joined here by three incredible gentlemen that are ready to duke it out for the title tonight. I don't mean just any title. I mean the BTB Roundtable champion title for the week. Don't get crazy, guys. It's not like it's a big deal or anything. I think it's just for bragging rights more than anything, but that's all right. We love that anyways. I'm joined tonight by Tom Ryle. We're going to start to my left. That is a left, not a right. Hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here tonight.
Yeah, good. We were talking earlier before we started recording, and I didn't get to finish hearing your answer. You said you're not a big dinner guy. You have like an afternoon meal, and that is what you go with. What did you have for your afternoon meal today?
Burrito smothered with homemade chili and a little coleslaw on the side, so I got some greens in me.
Oh, good. Those greens are important. You need those greens, and that sounds delicious. And you know what, Tom? Glad to have you here. And then I'm going to go down this way. Kind of feels like the Brady Bunch. Danny Phantom is in the house, everybody. Danny, how are you feeling looking at your competition already? Are you scouting them out? Like, what's your initial reaction to that?
I'm actually just excited. I don't think I've ever been on a roundtable before with Sean, so that's going to be fun. Of course, I've been on plenty of them with Mr. Riles, so I certainly know how that tends to go. But no, I'm super excited. I can't wait to talk some Cowboys stuff today.
I feel like you and Tom are like the Cowboys-Eagles rivalry here.
Whoa.
Like sometimes you guys just really either
that's
you hit
terrible.
heads really hard.
But
is there a better rivalry?
Oh,
I mean, debatably, I think that's the best rivalry we see within the Cowboys schedule. Witt's crying over here. He probably disagrees, but that is what it is. Let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree. That's the best rivalry. If not, give us some examples of who they remind you of. Sorry, Witt is crying.
For the record, Tom ate his greens today. So
yes.
Did.
Coleslaw shouldn't count. I mean, I'll give it.
Eagles greens.
Last but very not least, we have Sean Martin today, and I feel like I'm honored to host you on a roundtable. Like, where have you been? The people have not seen you. A little sus, but that's okay. How have you been, and how do you feel about the competition tonight? You have some roundtable like goats over here.
Yeah, I'm hanging with like the old guard here at BTB. Like if I was gonna pick like most likely or like superlative, BTB staffers that I most want to have a beer with, I think it's probably you guys. So,
Cool.
I'm honored to be here, and that's not fair to say I wasn't here, haven't been here in a while. I did I think the one 2 weeks ago at this point, and I was telling Tom before the show. That was with RJ as the host, and he's an Aggie. I live in Austin. I'm pro Longhorn, so I was doomed from the start. So I feel like tonight I have a fair chance. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It doesn't count because I wasn't hosting, so that's why.
There we go.
Yeah. Just remember, be careful about using the term old.
Oh man, we're striking nerves over here already, Sean. You're not off to a good start. I don't like that. I do not like that. Well, gentlemen, my dog is crying over here. So if you hear him crying, I'm sorry for anybody that has to hear that. Having a puppy is not for the weak, let me say. He's also crying because we're still in that slow part of the season where not a lot of stuff is going on exactly right now. So I'm going to toss it to Tom real quick. And he is really chatty over here. I'm going to toss it to Tom real quick. Tom, what so far, and I'm talking all of Cowboys offseason so far, has been really the highlight for you? Has it been the draft? Is it rookie minicamp? What is your favorite part of this offseason? Has it happened already? Is it coming up? And then I'm going to go around the table and we'll discuss, kind of that part of it first.
For me, it was the Cooks and Gilmore trades, which I think, they came just bang, bang. That set up the draft. It just really got the team in a much more solid position than they were at the same time last year. And it really just lifted my spirits, and I'm still riding that. I feel good about what the team is trying to do. I'm not sure about some of the elements of their plan but at least they seem to have a coherent plan. If their actual goals are the right ones. I always have reservations when they start talking a lot about run game on either side of the ball, but I'd have to say that was the big lift for me, and I thought that was a high point.
Very good answer. Off to a very good start. Bonus points for our guy over here to my left, because yes, I learned my directions. Sean, let's go to you. What has been your favorite part so far of this Cowboys offseason, or has it not happened yet?
Well, I hope it hasn't happened yet. One of my favorite things is training camp highlights of, getting hyped over big catches. And I know we're all going to get excited about Deuce Vaughn runs. So those things are to look forward to. But I'll narrow Tom's answer down a little bit with the Cooks and Gilmore trade. I'll say specifically the Gilmore trade because, when you have a strength on a roster, we haven't seen this team do really what championship teams do, and that's continue to address it, add to your strengths as opposed to resting on thinking you're already set at all these positions and, oh, we're just going to be the balanced team. No, go be good at, what you're really good at, and that's how you win a lot of games. And so that's what they're trying to do with Dan Quinn now, and we didn't necessarily expect them to address corner, especially in that way. We didn't know if they needed to. We like what Trevon Diggs provided, of course, Deron Bland, but now you put Diggs, Bland, and Stephon Gilmore all together, plus the depth that's behind those three, and it makes corner just such an overwhelming strength, along with everything good happening on the defensive line, the pass rush, Parsons, just throw it all together for Quinn's defense. But Gilmore is the start of that when it comes to really trying to stack this defense, and of course what they did in the draft. So, yeah, trading for Gilmore sent a message that they're going in the right direction, roster building wise, and he's certainly going to play a ton of snaps for him and be a really big contributor.
Well, I think that is a great explanation. And our loyal listener here on our roundtables, Wadamada, had to say, I was going to say the Gilmore trade. It was the first sign this offseason that was not going to be like the past. So the ghost of the Cowboys past, we're not going to haunt them because of this trade, according to the comments, according to both of y'all so far. But real quick, Danny Phantom, are you going to continue to kind of follow the rest of the crowd? Are you going to stand out and have your own opinion? Where are you at with the same question?
Well, I'm afraid to say that I'm sort of going to sound like the rest of the crowd. I will have my own little twist to it.
You're at negative points, just so you know.
Okay. So one thing I was really worried about is I felt like this was just going to be a do or die type mentality where we approached with, I felt like McCarthy was on his last leg and they were going to really do some crazy stuff. And of course, you guys mentioned the Gilmore and Cooks trade, which I think those trades were fantastic. But what I really love about it is that this was the Cowboys' attempt to go all in. They did not panic. They did not do anything hasty. I think they did their moves were calculated. And I think in all, you're looking at a team that, they were already good. Remember, we've picked now in 24th, 26th now. What's that? That's a good football team. So the Cowboys are entering this offseason already a good football team. I feel good about just that fact alone. And then to continue on that, they did not do anything crazy. They did not sign Odell Beckham Jr. They did not trade away draft capital and just future resources. Instead, they made some good moves. So to me, it's the same things, but it's just a different perspective, I guess. I'm happy that they stayed a little bit, the Cowboys way, but still at the same time appeasing the fan base by making some moves that we all really enjoy.
Well, there you go. I love that. And even though you're a follower, apparently it was still a great answer. And I'm excited to hear your redemption arc throughout the rest of this episode and how you come back from those negative points now. So, of course, we know this offseason has been filled with a lot of exciting things, all leading up to the 2023 Cowboys schedule release, which, gentlemen, did you get to see any of the release videos, not just from the Cowboys, but across the NFL? Do you have one that stood out to you? Did you not get to watch them all yet? There's kind of a lot to watch. And if so, which one was your favorite? Sean, I'm going to start with you.
I think I burnt myself out on watching those because last year there was an avalanche of them. Last year it felt like the pinnacle. There might be recency bias still, but it felt like the pinnacle of these things. So, last year there were so many good ones, but I think the Chargers again this year went back to what they did last year, which is an anime theme one. And they had cool little like subplots going for other opponents and things like that. So I didn't see the full thing. I didn't even really see the Cowboys Yellowstone one, but hey, anything country Yellowstone themes good in my book. So that one was good. The Chargers were good as well, and the rest of them, like I said, I'm just too burnt out on.
Tom, Danny, do you guys watch Yellowstone? Did you watch the release video? What's the scoop with all of that for both of y'all?
Tom, you disappoint him first.
Good friend. You're wow.
Well, let me confess, I haven't watched any of the release videos. I just have had a lot going on. So okay, just go ahead.
Negative points for Tom.
Yeah, negative points.
Yeah, you're right back to negative too.
Tough but start, guys. I have watched every second of Yellowstone and all the spinoffs.
Positive points for Tom.
Now I'm going to have to go get up and look at it.
Yeah, definitely have to watch it. Dan, did you get to see it? What were your thoughts?
Okay, I'm going to be careful how I answer this. First off, I just want to say I really like Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, and I like Kevin Costner. So I'll just put that out there, and that's as far as I'll go with Yellowstone or anything else. So I don't get excited about the schedule release. I'll just, I'm sorry, I am who I am. It's just not a big deal to me. I did see the video, and I know what you're talking about with the audition thing, and I thought some parts were really silly, and other parts were like, oh, that's kind of cool. Seeing Dez come back for, I don't know what's with the Diggs jersey, but it's fine. It's just not something I get pumped about. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I guess me and Tom are just, a couple of, negative Nancy's or Nellies or whatever, so.
Man, you are really off to a tough start tonight, my friend. I was rooting for you going into this. I mean, I don't know. I may or may not have some preset graphics that I make already. I might have to go back in and change those. I'm not sure, but all in all, I think just shout out to all of the social media teams across the NFL who basically treat that as their Super Bowl to put it all together. It's incredible to see all their work come to light. So with that being said, we're on the schedule release. What we're going to do tonight on the BTB Roundtable is, yes, we're going to go over the schedule. I'm sure everybody's a little scheduled out, but we're going to put a little twist on things. So before we put our twist on things, let's go through it first, everybody. Let's start with week 1, the Cowboys season opener. We're not going to talk about preseason because I'm going to save the preseason chat for when preseason rolls around, since we need something to talk about when that comes up. So I'm talking regular season schedule. Week 1 against the Giants for some Sunday night football, and it is in New York. So exciting to see that rivalry kind of come back and kick off the year, really. I always enjoyed this game, more so when it's in Dallas and you can go watch it. But I think it's a great way to kick off the season. We're going to, for time's sake, I'm not going to go through everybody for every week. But Tom, how are you feeling about week 1 against the Giants? Do you like it? Do you not? Where are you at with that? Week 1, setting the tone early for the NFC East.
Well, the thing I don't like about it is it's such a boring choice. They do this almost every year, it seems like, as they open with Dallas and New York, because it is going to be a ratings blockbuster. And everything the NFL does is ultimately based on money, and ratings is what drives the revenue. So this is just, to me, it's a lazy choice. They could have done a Sunday night football matchup with them at any point during the season. And I just, I kind of wish they were a little bit more like they are in college, where they don't put the division games up front. They have backloaded most of them a little bit, but I just when I saw that, it was like, oh, here we are again. But as for the game, I think the Cowboys clearly should be favored in this. I'm not convinced that Daniel Jones is the guy that the Giants want to carry them forward. They are a team on the rise, so I think it will be a challenge. I am always nervous, though, because the Cowboys can get off to a slow start out of the gate, and the Giants are going to be gunning for them. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it turns out.
Well, there you go. I think it's a great take, but it's not the take I would agree with, so I can't give you points for it. So sorry, my friend. I have high hopes for you there. But again, yeah, there's mixed opinions on that opening with a division rival. I think for me personally, when I look at the Giants game, it was always so exciting to see it when it was, the Eli Manning days against Tony Romo. To me, that was a really fun matchup to watch. Now with it being Dak Prescott and Daniel Jones, I expect Dak Prescott to be the better quarterback of the two between the matchups. So it's not so much of a rivalry. I think that's more become with the Eagles with Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. So there you go. Let's move on to week 2. Sean, I know you have some thoughts about this. The Cowboys go back to AT&T Stadium where they will see the New York Jets, which normally would not be a week 2 matchup that we really discuss. Except, we're speaking about off-season moves. There was a certain off-season move that was made by the Jets to make this a very interesting matchup that Cowboys cannot seem to get away from, and that being the one, the only, Aaron Rodgers. I don't like saying that, but how are you feeling about this matchup specifically being in week 2 and not later on in the season, specifically on Thanksgiving, where everybody was kind of speculating when it would be?
Yeah, I just hope the Cowboys are ready to, live up to the moment that the NFL is trying to create with not shoehorning the Jets into being, this relevant team right out of the gate, but certainly putting it in week 2, it, begs the question, are the Jets really going to live up to all this hype? It doesn't give Aaron Rodgers a chance to establish really anything. I know Jets fans don't care. I keep in touch with plenty of Jets fans back home, and they're just couldn't be more excited about the direction of the team now, of course, and having good quarterback play again and everything of that. If this game was at MetLife, it would be, an even crazier scene if the Cowboys played back-to-back there. But, yeah, home game against the Jets. Hopefully they're ready for the occasion of whatever that team is going to look like then. Of course, we hope that's with a 1-0 record after beating the Giants as well. I look at the placement of both Giants games as kind of the NFL begging that this to be a 3-team race in the NFC East. They want Cowboys-Eagles to be a thing, and it is. But the way you play the Giants both in primetime week 1 and then right after the other Eagles game, you're just asking for them to be a rival. And if that's going to be the case, you can't, slip up against the Jets, even if it is Aaron Rodgers. He beat you last year. McCarthy was not happy, so it's a revenge game for so many reasons, and the Cowboys need to be ready.
Revenge game. I love it. I love it. I love it. Dan, how do you? Tom wants to weigh in on this. Dan, he cut you off. Y'all are really at it already tonight. I love this. I love this.
I just wanted to say that I had kind of predicted before the season in one of my articles that they would go with the Jets game very early because they didn't want to land at Thanksgiving with the risk that Aaron Rodgers was not the answer for the Jets, and it became a game where it was just kind of no real excitement. I don't know they made a much better choice with what they did schedule at Thanksgiving, but I thought they were going to do this early to maximize that Rodgers-McCarthy rivalry hype thing.
Really good point. And I would just like to ask, where's your crystal ball that you predicted this? Because I love that you were already on top of this. I need to know your secrets. Dan, how do you feel about this? This is a matchup that, of course, everybody was speculating about. As soon as Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, it was almost like that wasn't the news. The news was that he gets to play the Cowboys again. How do you feel about this being week 2? Were you hoping this was a little later on in the season, or do you like the placement of this matchup?
I like the placement of it. I honestly, with Aaron Rodgers, you really never know. I honestly thought we got him in a good time last year because the Packers were just trash. I mean, I feel like they went an 8-game stretch. They lost 7 of them, but they beat us. And then that's how that means. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers could just, disappoint us at any moment. So I guess when I'm thinking about this, I would rather it be earlier because Rodgers is going to have some, growing pains with his new team, new offense, everything. So I think those things will reveal themselves earlier. So if I had to choose, and you're asking me to, I would be picking to get Aaron Rodgers early. And I want to say too, since Tom brought up predictions, I do remember a particular roundtable just a week ago where we were who do you think we get week 1? And I'm not going to mention names, but one of the roundtable participants predicted the Giants would be week 1. So, and it wasn't Rabs and it wasn't Tom, but that's all.
Really
I want to make one more comment about the week 1 game. I actually love it. I'm completely opposite as Tom. I think it's
Good.
perfect level of caliber. I don't want any. I prefer someone easier, but I don't want it to be just a non-exciting game. And I particularly like it to be on Sunday night in the sense of we had all the other week, all the appetizers throughout the NFL season opened up, and here the Cowboys get to just end Sunday with the game, the final game of the evening. So I love it. So you can watch all the action first, and then we get our real treat in prime time.
Ooh, I love appetizers. I'm a big appetizer girl, so you're getting your points back slowly. I told you you'd have your redemption arc at some point during this episode. And you disagreed with Tom. I love that. I love when you guys bicker, so extra points for Danny there. Let's move on to week 3, the Cardinals, and I believe this is an away game. Yes, week 3 away, Sunday, September 23rd. So Danny, I'm going to bounce back to you real quick. How do you feel about this game? Is this anything you're really worried about? Or is it just kind of one of those games that they just play?
Well, I'm a little worried because we've been struggling with Arizona. Similar to what I said earlier with the Green Bay. I think we've only won 1 out of our last 7 games against them. Maybe it's not that much, but it's not that many. In fact, I think the last time we beat them was in 2017 with the whole anthem kneeling. The whole team kneeled Monday night game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But the Cardinals have kind of owned us recently. Kyler Murray has been, on social media and said some things, that Cowboy fans aren't too thrilled about, and he's backed it up. And so, I mean, they beat us the last couple of times with Murray, and they've kind of been disappointing times for us too. Like we have a little momentum, and then they come and they just crush it. So I know you look at that game, it's like, oh, that's nothing. That's just that's one we can get, but I'm not looking past them by any means.
All right, so that moves us on to week 4. The Cowboys are back at AT&T Stadium against the Patriots. Tom, how are you feeling about this matchup? Again, this is a Sunday game at 3:25. So how do you feel about the week 4 matchup with the Pats?
I don't know really what version of the Patriots is going to come out this year. They still are trying to figure out, just like the Giants are, they're trying to figure out if they've got their quarterback in Mac Jones. I think they've kind of committed to him right now, but they don't know if that's going to last. It's always dangerous when Bill Belichick is across you on the sidelines. So this game to me is more intriguing than anything to see what rolls out and how McCarthy handles things. I think the Cowboys, they are right now favored in the early line. So I think they should win this game. But to me, it's one of the real question mark teams because I'm waiting to find out what product New England is going to put on the field this year.
Well, yes, we don't know what era they will be in. Will they be in their loss era or their win era? We don't know. They're not Taylor Swift. I could not tell you. But I will tell you that week 5 is another one of those matchups that everybody is going to keep a very close eye on because you get your rematch. You head to San Francisco week 5 of the season to play the 49ers. Again, this one hurts a little bit, guys. This is a redemption game once again for the Cowboys for obvious reasons. If you live under a rock, you don't know that the Cowboys did lose to the 49ers in the playoffs for the last 2 seasons, then you live under a rock, literally, because that is what it is. So, Sean, how do you feel about week 5? And it is a 7:20 game. Again, Sunday night football. Those primetime matchups, can't get enough of them with the Cowboys. How do you feel about this matchup? Obviously, we knew it was going to be a primetime game. What are your thoughts?
I liked it early enough in the season where, if these teams do meet in the playoffs again, there'll be different versions of themselves. I think the NFL really does a good job of that in general when it comes to they love to reschedule playoff rematches when they can in the regular season. But when they put them too late, it almost feels like they overhype it to the point of like, this game we're going to see is exactly how it's going to play if they meet in the playoffs. This is basically a playoff game when it's really not. Any bounce of the ball can determine a playoff game different than it does in the regular season. So I like that we'll be able to bookmark this early in the year, week 5, of okay, were you good enough to beat the 49ers then? Can you sustain that all the way through to week 18 and then a potential third playoff rematch? Or, were you not good enough and then you're still chasing that carrot for the next however many weeks, 10 plus, to go after it and know you have something to improve on, saying, hey, we don't want to relive this again. They already beat us once. We know what we have to improve on as we go into a pretty tough stretch after that. Chargers, the Kellen Moore reunion, we'll get into that in a second. Rams, Eagles, Giants, all in the rearview mirror, or front windshield mirror, going ahead as you look past that 49ers game, but not an opponent to overlook because the Cowboys have that recent playoff history with them too. So.
I was gonna say, look, the rear view's in the back.
Yeah,
the in the front. I was gonna.
I finally figured out how to do my mirror thing on here. I was on the last one and I kept turning my head to the left and it was going right. I finally figured out there's a setting for that, so I feel really smart today.
You know what? It's okay. I couldn't tell you right from left earlier. As you guys saw if you're watching the live stream. If you're listening to this later, you didn't hear that either. I didn't just admit that out loud. It is mirrored when we do these episodes on.
No, but you can turn that off. That's what I'm saying. It's the best setting of all time.
Look, we're going to link up about that later, and you could have told me that and saved me the embarrassment at the beginning of the episode. So for that, negative point, everybody.
Because you know how to turn your head left or right, I can.
You know what? Keep it going.
You're not helping yourself there.
I deserve that. Okay.
We're comment on the Chargers game. We're duking it out. But yeah, before I get too heated, Dan, week 6, the Chargers game, as Sean was just talking about, and it is another away game. That's a Monday night game. So how are you feeling about that? And keep in mind, that's the week before their bye week. So a Monday night game, usually a little bit weird if the Cowboys play the following Sunday, but because their bye week's the next week, that could play a factor in it. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, the good point there too. So it's the short rest thing will not affect us. In fact, if you're curious about the Cowboys' rest this season, you can go over Blogging the Boys, and RJ did an article that just gives you a nice little rundown. Cowboys come out a little favorable when it comes to rest compared to their opponent this season, so that's good. I want to keep Jess in a good mood and talk about this Kellen Moore matchup. That so I don't
picking up. I don't like that either. So.
I'm glad you saved this one for me.
I did it on purpose. I'm not going to lie. I was a little calculated with the order I went in because I wanted to ask you specifically about this. So you're welcome. You're very welcome.
I appreciate that. I hope you like the results. I'm a little nervous, to be honest. I feel like this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be redemption for somebody. Who's the better play caller, and obviously we're hoping that this works out for Mike McCarthy. But I'm scared. I think there's a lot of weapons in LA, and I feel like it could be tough. And I am curious to see. I think we'll have a good sense about like how things, how he's doing, but prior to that, so it's not like he's going to sneak up on anyone and just but it could be one of those games to where he knows this defense really well, he knows the offense really. You could see some things to where he just gets us leaning the wrong way, and so I'm a little worried. I'm excited too at the same time. I think it'll be a tough road game. We play SoFi every year since it's opened. We're always there, and so here's another one. So I'm excited. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping that Kellen Moore is on the losing end of this one.
Tom and Sean, how do you feel about that entire thing? Do you feel like Kellen Moore is going to have some tricks up his sleeve? Is it something to be worried about? Or do you feel like Brian Schottenheimer and Mike McCarthy are going to work together to put this new offensive scheme together to where that's just not going to be a possibility, especially as we get further and further into the season? Tom, I'll start with you, and then Sean will jump to you on this one.
Well, the offenses don't really go against each other, of course. It's just a matter of who's got the better offense on the field and who can put the most points up against the defenses. And they're both pretty strong teams. Justin Herbert, the sense is that he's been held back, and now it's up to Kellen Moore to unleash him. I think Kellen Moore can. I don't know that means that he will. And what we're really going to find out is, was McCarthy right in moving on from Kellen or not? So it's going to be fun to check how that goes. I I'm more interested in seeing how Dan Quinn does against Kellen Moore. That to me is the fascinating matchup because Quinn has seen what Moore does. Moore has seen what Quinn does. Quinn's got some shiny new toys to play with this year. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
Good point. Sean, how are you feeling about this matchup? And I think Tom put it in such a perfect way to say that the real matchup is between Kellen and Dan Quinn here. Just overall, this being before the bye week, they're in their 6-week stretch at this point. This is when you really start to see teams kind of forming and becoming the best version of themselves, right? How do you feel about this matchup and where it's placed in the schedule?
Yeah, I was going to say, I know this point has been beaten to death, but where it's placed in the schedule is extra important here because I do think Kellen Moore will be particularly ready for this game. We know the trend of his offenses in Dallas. They start the season great and they faded towards the end of the year, so that's been beaten to death. But yeah, week 6 is early enough in the year where if that trend continues for him with the Chargers and Justin Herbert gets off to a hot start, which is what any team in that division needs when you're trying to face off against Pat Mahomes and some other high-powered offenses, then yeah, Kellen Moore is going to be at his best, we would think, if history repeats itself around this time. And Dan Quinn always shows up at his best, so that is the real matchup in this game, as you guys said. And yeah, it's going to be a high-flying type of game for the Chargers offense. But I saw some of our commenters and you guys as well say that the Cowboys defense should be ready for the challenge, and Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore as opportunistic type corners should kind of know some of the route concepts that are coming, and maybe that can help them. So I'll buy into that and think that the Cowboys have a slight edge with their defense going against Kellen, but let's not sleep on the fact that Kellen Moore's offense could certainly be near its peak form here in week 6. The Chargers are hoping that they can say that when it's later in the year and then they're actually contending in the playoffs. But as far as the Cowboys are concerned, in this one game against them, they have to deal with what could be the best of Kellen Moore's offense in Los Angeles.
All right. Well, very good takes, gentlemen. I'm going to give you guys each points for that because, again, I think it's a good matchup where it's placed, and I personally am glad it's not later on in the season. I think this is one of those games that because it's against Kellen, you have a little bit more to play for. And if you win this game later in the season, I just feel like that's a little bit more of a gut punch, especially if you're in this situation where you need wins for playoff seeding and you're in that part of the season. I love where this is. I think it's a good matchup at a good time, especially considering the Monday night factor and then the bye week the following week for week 7. The Cowboys will kick off week 8 after their bye week again versus the Chargers, but they're not staying in California. They're back at home at AT&T Stadium. This is another good matchup. For time's sake, we're going to skip over that one. But week 9 at Philadelphia for their first of their 2 matchups with Philly this season. A Sunday game, an afternoon game. And again, we were talking about this earlier. I think debatably one of the best current rivalries in football with Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott heading their teams, and just how the teams have formed really within these last couple of seasons. So how do we feel about, I think this is a little bit later for an Eagles matchup in the season than we've seen in seasons past. Gentlemen, how do we feel about where the first Philly game is? And again, it's an away game. It's the away game. We know how those Philly fans can be. Ew. How do we feel about where this is in the schedule? Dan, I'll jump down to you and we'll start there.
Yeah, I'll actually defer this to my my fellow roundtablers, but I just want to quickly say about the Rams game real quick. I feel like the Rams game they've been really moody against us, because it's like every time we expect them to be one way, they're another way. They beat us in the playoffs and they come back and then we destroy them the following year. Then we don't expect to beat them. They would come in and we play them week 1 and we don't think they're that good and they beat us. That's the Jalen Ramsey push-off game. And then last year too. I mean, the Rams are the reigning champs, and then they just look terrible. So all I wanted to say about that Rams game is that everyone's saying it's fire sale, rebuild, whatever you want to say. They don't lower your guard too much, because every time we think one way, they turn around and it's the other. So that's all I want to say about that. But have at it with Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, I hope they do win that game, as we all do, except if you're a Philadelphia fan, then obviously you hope for the other outcome. Again, for time's sake, we're just going to kind of jump over the rest of this a little bit quicker. For week 10, the Cowboys do meet up with the Giants once again in Dallas. So we already talked about that matchup. We won't go over it again. Week 11 is, let's see, an away game against Carolina. It is a noon game. And do you think this is a significant matchup, Sean, or is it, again, just one of those games that you kind of just play, or is it overlooked? I mean, which side of the scale are you on with that?
Well, it's the second year in a row the Cowboys have played against the number 1 overall pick in that year's draft. Last year was far less flashy. It was Trayvon Walker, defensive tackle for the Jaguars, but yet the Jaguars, pulled off one of the upsets of the season, and it wasn't a game that a ton of people saw because it was in the early window, so the NFL was probably kicking themselves over that. And as far as, there's nothing they love more than either getting the Cowboys in a big win or a huge loss for the ratings. So their loss was kind of hidden there to Jacksonville, but it was significant nonetheless. And this game, for that reason, I thought would have a chance to be in prime time so that, Carolina could try to pull off that same type of upset. Instead, they put it in the early window again, and it's a much flashier first overall pick you're playing against. Of course, we're talking about Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. So, yeah, we're all expecting so many great things from Quinn's defense. What are they going to have in store for a rookie quarterback that should be pretty established by that point? So, Cowboys versus Bryce Young, I'm definitely a little bit intrigued in this Week 11 matchup.
So don't sleep on it, is what you're saying.
No, even though it's an early kickoff, we don't get many of those. Yeah, get up for it in Carolina there. So.
There you go. All right. Well, for week 12, the Cowboys meet up with the Commanders for the first time in the season. This is the Thursday night game. Also, Thanksgiving. So the Cowboys better be feasting on a victory. It is a home game at 3:30. How do we feel about the Thanksgiving matchup this year? Because, again, there was a lot of speculation that this was going to be a Cowboys-Jets Thanksgiving. How do we feel that it is back to the Commanders? Tom, I'm going to go to you because you said you were tired of these traditions of opening up the season with the Giants. Do you feel the same way about this Commanders matchup?
A good bit. Yeah, it's same sometimes with the Cowboys. They just kind of said, well, we'll just go back to what we've always done and do this. Again, I don't expect the Commanders to have made huge strides. They came along a good bit last year. I think any improvement this year is going to be more incremental. And yeah, I think the Cowboys should win this one. And I just don't think the Commanders are bringing enough to the table this year quite yet.
All right. So do you think it's fair to say that if you had to rank the NFC East, they're kind of fourth on your list right now to be worried about within the Cowboys division?
Yeah, just on the strength of the quarterbacks alone, that's kind of how I feel like they fall.
Okay, that's fair. Let's go to week 13, where it is against the Seahawks. And again, another home game for the Cowboys and another Thursday game, which personally I love this because that means you're not getting a short week. You're getting a full week just on a bit of a different schedule because it's a Thursday to Thursday. Dan, how do you feel about this specific matchup, but also the placement on the schedule? Do you agree? Do you like this Thursday to Thursday thing? Where are you with that?
Yeah, I agree with you about Thursday to Thursday. That's when if you're going to give the Cowboys a Thursday game, have it either be week 1 where you get the extra rest or following the Thanksgiving, which they typically do. But the matchup, I am not happy about it, and this is a selfish reason. It's because I live in the Pacific Northwest, and all the Seahawks games are televised. So this is a freebie game when the Cowboys play the Seahawks. It's always on TV, but now it's going to be used up as the Thursday night game. So that's just an extra Cowboys game that won't be on my television. I'm not thrilled about that. That's really the only opinion I have about that. And I always love to win that game because of where I live too, just so I don't have to listen to, Seahawk fans, talk about the win of the Cowboys. I know they all find me too. They won't talk about it until they beat Dallas. And then guess what? Hey, then they find me and talk about it. Don't want that. So it's definitely on my list of I hope we win that game.
We don't want that for you either. And I don't like you're a Seahawk magnet. I didn't know that was a thing until right now. But also, what is up with fan bases that have birds as their logo just being the most aggressive for no reason? Like they really are the fan bases that do the most.
I don't know if that's fair to Cardinals fans. Just saying. I don't know.
I
feel like I met a bad Cardinal.
Yeah, no, they're little, but they're mighty. You know what I mean? Like a small fan base, but they are mighty.
Are we talking about their quarterback? Or?
I'm talking about fans specifically. But yeah, interesting to note there. Speaking of birds, guess what comes for the Cowboys week 14? A Sunday night, or excuse me, Sunday night game against the Eagles. Again, no shock that this is a primetime game, as we were talking about that rivalry here. We won't go over it again, but of course, America's team being in the spotlight again. Week
20th year in a row, Cowboys Eagles primetime, by the way.
Fun fact brought to you by Sean this evening or morning, whenever you're listening back to this. So week 15, this one I'm not a big fan of. Sunday game, an afternoon game at 3:25 against the Bills in the freezing cold in Buffalo. Gentlemen, as we know, in Dallas, yes, it has gotten colder over the last few years, but nothing like those videos that we were seeing last season around December with all of the snowfall and the feet of snow that was about to be played in. I don't know. I don't like the thoughts of the Cowboys or really any team playing in snow like that, but for some reason people enjoy it, and they even more so enjoy going to these games. Good for you guys if you're brave enough to endure that. I am from the desert, so to me, like 75 degrees, that's cold enough. I don't want to get any colder than that. How do we feel about this matchup specifically? Again, the Bills, pretty fantastic team, what they've done over the last few seasons. And how do we feel about where it's placed in the schedule in December, considering the weather pattern? Sean, I'll jump over to you.
Yeah, I've been to my fair share of cold weather games. I'm over that. You know I'm a transplant southerner, but it's worn off on me quick as far as being done with the cold. So over these cold games, but it's a challenge the Cowboys have to be ready for, compared to who they might see in the playoffs, Philadelphia, or anything of those likes. So certainly if they play at the 49ers again, it won't be of concern. But yeah, a weather game late in the season, 2 playoff contenders on Fox. You know they're hyped for this one in the late window. So it's a huge game that's been overstated already at this point, and it's only going to build as we get closer to Bills Cowboys. It really feels like the last really huge test for Quinn's defense in this stretch of the season. It was a defense that carried them at times, even when Dak Prescott wasn't on the field last year, and now we're asking them to do even more this year. They might have more support from the offense as well, but just the way they drafted, we want this defense to really carry the team. And, well, if you can prove it this late in the year against Buffalo and Josh Allen, that would be a huge statement going towards the postseason. So any number of reasons to have eyes on this game, the snow being one of them, Bills fans getting thrown through tables being yet another as well. And you put all that together, this is going to be, probably the highlight game of the year for a lot of people.
We have a commenter that said, real football is played in bad weather. I felt like I had to change my voice for that.
He's kind of not wrong, but at the same time, like, cold is not it.
Yeah, no, I'm good with not doing football in weather that could create injuries, especially before the playoffs. For time's sake, we're just going to jump down the rest of the schedule here because we do have to put a game and a little twist on this. So week 16, Sunday, pre-Christmas, we're talking Christmas Eve game, afternoon 3:25 against the Dolphins in Miami. So they go from cold to warm weather. Love that for them. They can defrost from the cold in Buffalo. And then you have a Saturday game, December 30th, against the Lions at home. That is a 7:15 game. And then week 18, you have a Sunday game, January 7th, against the Commanders in Washington. Time is to be determined still with that week. So, gentlemen, let's put a little twist on this. We've gone through the schedule. We're scheduled out at this point. I'm going to ask you guys first the easy question. Which of the 4-week stretches during this schedule do you think is the easiest and why? And I gave you guys time to think about this. I'm not springing this on you. You've had all day to think about this. Well, this one I sent a little bit later. You've had a couple hours to think about this. Which is good enough. So really impress us here with your answers. Tom, let's start with you. In your opinion, what is the easiest 4-week stretch the Cowboys will see in this current schedule?
Well, based on what we think we know about the teams right now, I think it's the first 4 games of the season. I just, I think the Jets are going to find out that Aaron Rodgers can't elevate them as much as they think he does. I don't worry about the Cardinals at all. Lately, the Cowboys have had the Giants' numbers, and like I said, I'm not thinking that the Patriots are guaranteed to be as tough as they were a few years back. I think this is a great chance for the Cowboys to get off to a fast start that they might need later on as the games get tougher. And right now, I kind of think that's pretty much the easiest stretch they're going to see. I think the rest of the season, it's going to be every 3 or 4 games, you're going to have a real challenge coming up.
All right, Sean, easiest stretch of the season. Are you agreeing? Are you seeing another 4-week stretch? Then Tom here, where are you at with that question?
I have a different stretch, but I love Tom just going straight for the stretch that has Aaron Rodgers in there. Ain't scared of no Rodgers. That's great.
I love that. I love the mentality there.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, but I'm going week 10 through 13. Like you said, Tom, having the Giants numbers, so having them in here helps. So that's the first game of this stretch. Week 10, home game with the Giants. Week 11, you're playing a rookie quarterback, like I mentioned, Bryce Young at the Panthers, and then the Commanders game on Thanksgiving, and then not having to play on any short rest the next week with that Thursday against the Seattle Seahawks, where you'll have the quarterback advantage again and all that going for you. So I think it's that stretch right there where you don't consistently see a team that can beat you on both sides of the ball, where you're expecting Quinn's defense to have an advantage, you're expecting a sharp quarterback advantage. You put all that together, and Prescott's usually at his best for those types of stretches, including Thanksgiving and primetime and all that. So there's a lot going right for the Cowboys in that week 10 to 13 stretch.
All right. Very good stuff there. Yes, Tom.
Oh, no, I was just cracking a knuckle on.
Oh, you're good. No, you're good. I thought you were going to rebuttal there.
He wants to change his answer.
Oh, no, that was a good answer.
No, we got to stick with the Rodgers fan. That took guts, but I like it.
Yeah, it did. Danny, where are you at with this? The easiest 4-week stretch for the Cowboys on their schedule.
Yeah, I think both were good answers, and they're really the only 2 answers. So I looked at them closely, and I'm going to actually go with Sean on this. And the reason I'm taking his 4 games, well, there's a couple of reasons. First off, you're looking at 3 home games, so I think that's helpful in that stretch. He mentioned the rookie quarterback. It's one thing I will say is Cowboys, they struggle with number 1 overall quarterbacks. You have to go back to, before you, Jess and Sean was even born, and I was in diapers the last time they beat a number 1 overall quarterback. So they just don't have, a lot of success. And
can we fact check that? I feel like it wasn't.
You can fact it was Jim Plunkett in 1971, in case you're one to know.
Courtesy, you're correct.
Yeah, I figured that is. But I know that doesn't mean anything. But I just feel like sometimes they just struggle with rookie quarterbacks, and you never know. But I am making my decision based on quarterbacks, and if you look at that stretch, the quarterbacks that you're looking at there, they're just easier. Washington, I don't even know who their quarterback is. I know Daniel Jones doesn't scare. He's in both of them. So, and then Seattle, what do we got? Geno, is that that's still their quarterback, right? So it's just I'm picking the same 4 games as Sean. I think there's more of an advantage with your home stretch, and then just the overall quality of quarterbacks in that group.
Very nice. And again, I think this would be a very different discussion if it wasn't a Thursday to Thursday right there on your schedule. I think if you went from a Thursday to probably a Monday or whatever the case is, it would be a very different schedule conversation overall. But I love that Thursday to Thursday. Y'all know I'm not a Thursday night gal, never advocated for that. But Thursday to Thursday definitely changes the conversation. But we're going to switch things up again because so according to the consensus here, although I do appreciate Tom's answer to say I am like Taylor Swift, I'm heading into this fearless. Aaron Rodgers does not scare me. His words, not mine, obviously. I like that. I like that, Tom. I'm giving you points still, but the 4-week consensus that is the easiest part of the Cowboys schedule is week 10 against the Giants, 11, the Panthers, week 12, the Commanders, and then week 13, the Seahawks. So I don't make the rules here, actually. Yes, I kind of do, but that was just the general vote. So let's go to the other side of things. Let's talk about what 4-week stretch that you're most worried about that could be the most difficult for this Cowboys team? This one you guys have had time to think about. I told you about this one whole 24 hours ago, almost, I think. So you've had time to sit on it, really look over the schedule, marinate on it. Tom, it's only right that I start with you because both of these guys just really decided to gang up on you. I don't think it's fair. I think you should get the table first and set the tone once again.
Well, yeah, for me, it's got to be the next 4 games on the schedule after my 4 easiest. You go to the Niners, you go to the Chargers. You do get the bye week to recover, and the Rams a chance to maybe catch your breath and get back on track. But then you have to go to the Eagles. And I just don't think there is a 4-game stretch that's any tougher. There's definitely a back-to-back set of games that's clearly the hardest 2 games on the schedule looking forward right now. That's when they play the Eagles and the Bills. But for a 4-game stretch, weeks 5 through 9, that to me is just the obvious answer when I look at it.
So you're cashing in weeks 5 to 9. All right, Sean, are you going to start another fight with Tom here before us, or are you going to agree with him? Do you have a different 4-week stretch in mind?
Yeah, so I changed mine kind of last second here, but not by much, just moving everything a week up. So I was going to go weeks 4 through 8, which includes the bye, but the 4 games would be Patriots, Niners, Chargers, Rams. I'm going to move all that up before the bye and go Cardinals, Patriots, 49ers, Chargers, weeks 3 through 6, because that Cardinal stat from earlier just kind of haunts me. You were right, Dan. It was 1 win in the last 7 games against them. So that's kind of haunting. And so, it seems like something just dumb always happens against the Cardinals, right? Like, for lack of a better word, it's just always like a fumble recover in the end zone, or, a D tackle as a pick 6, or something stupid always happens against the Cardinals. So I'm kind of thinking that could happen again. And then you go into the Patriots game where it's Belichick on the other side. You go into the playoff rematch against the 49ers, and you go into the Kellen game. So there's so many possible distraction type things, off the field type things that could mess up these early season games that are so important when you look at how tough the late season stretch is. So you can't let those distractions take away from the wins that you need early in the year to bank on when you do have to go play at Buffalo and at Miami down the stretch, and Philadelphia included there too. So yeah, I think the most worrisome games are right after you get done with the New York/New Jersey teams with the Giants and Jets in weeks 3 through 6, Cardinals, Patriots, Niners, and Chargers in primetime.
Oh, all right. So we have some different answers. Dan, what are you going with? I mean, you can either copy one of your fellow 2 teammates, which are your rivals technically right now, or you can be original, have your own answer, stand on your own ledge, and make this even more difficult. But for those of you watching, I hope you're paying attention, because you're going to have to help me vote to who you agree with the most on this one, because this one's pretty tough. So, Dan, what is your most difficult 4-week stretch that you see on the schedule?
Well, last time I got chastised for agreeing with these guys, so I definitely don't want to be going down that route. I will say I do not agree with Sean this time, and I will say that Tom is absolutely right. This is a easiest choice, but it's not the 4 games that he picked. To me, it's going to be week 13 through week 16, 4 straight games against NFL playoff teams, and I'm surprised that you guys missed this. You're talking about 2 road games, against our toughest AFC East opponents with Buffalo, which may be in the snow. It will be a digs on digs matchup. We know that. And then of course the upcoming Miami team that has 2 really super fast receivers. That's going to give me nightmares when that game rolls around. But of course you also have the Philadelphia game mixed in there, and then Seattle. So all 4 teams made the postseason. I feel like that's going to be the toughest stretch for the Cowboys, with half of them being on the road. So that is the part of the schedule that worries me the most. So.
Wow, all of y'all came with very good answers and very good explanations, and this makes my job very difficult. So I don't appreciate that, but I also do, because Dan, I'm so proud of you for the redemption you've made over the last 54 minutes and 21 seconds. I really am.
I'm coachable.
Look, you really
I
are.
think he just put the Seahawks game in there to, hype up his local team so that, around the water cooler when the Cowboys win, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we beat a playoff team. It's not just like, oh, we expected to beat the Seahawks. You're just hyping them up so you can say, like, yeah, it felt great to beat you guys. So that's my conspiracy theory right there.
Oh, conspiracy theory. Love that. So if you're watching here on the live stream, go ahead and leave a comment to who you agree with the most on their 4-week stretch for the most difficult part of the Cowboys season. It looks like Danny has 5 points coming in for Watsamata, who again is a very loyal fan of these BTB roundtables, and we do appreciate. He says +5 for Danny Phantom. That is my trouble spot, such as it is. So Danny, it looks like you're winning so far. We're waiting a little bit to see if other commenters comment in. My dog is crying once again. So I don't know, Danny. I don't know if that means he agrees with you or he's crying because he doesn't. But overall, let's see. Oh, we have some controversy here in the comments. Brian says Tom is the winner, no doubt. Plus 5.2 points. We can only give 5 points, so I'm going to round down and give Tom those 5 points as well. Sean, I liked your answer. I'm giving you points for that too, because I just think overall you're looking at it from a bit of a different lens that a lot of people really aren't thinking about. But like I said, all three of you guys had very good answers just ready to go. So as the schedule the schedule talk continues, something else I did want to bring up, because as we know and as it pains us to talk about, the Eagles are coming back this season from a post Super Bowl run that I'm glad they lost, but it is not to be said that they are people or teams, a team, I should say, you have to worry about going forward. Do you think they are the toughest team you see in this schedule as a whole as we wait for more of the comments to come in? Do you think it's the Eagles or do you think it's someone else? Tom, I'll start with you and we'll go around for that one.
I think it may be the Bills. I think they are definitely the kind of a preseason contender to make it to the Super Bowl. Most likely it's going to come down to them and the Chiefs. And Dallas, of course, last year it was kind of weird because each team was without a quarterback, without their starting quarterback for one of the games. So, it's just that they know each other. And so there's always a chance that the game's going to be much closer than we expect. And I just think being away at Buffalo with that threat of bad weather up there, I think that is going to be, to me, that is slightly tougher than facing the Eagles this year.
Sean, where are you at? Who's the toughest opponent the Cowboys faced this season?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with some of our commenters I just saw roll in there. I think it is the Eagles, just because I think Buffalo, they're very good at what they do. You can't take anything away from them. I would certainly pick them along if the rest of the field is an AFC contender. But I think, they could be scouted easier than the Eagles. They're good at what they do, and you can understand that and know what the matchup is. Whether the Cowboys come out on top in a tough road game, that can't be said, and it's going to be difficult. But I think the Eagles are just so multiple. If you want to get Butch happy and go after them with Dan Quinn's aggressive defense, they can misdirect you to death. If you want to sit back and play coverage, they're really going to test if your interior run defense is improved or not when you drafted Mozzie Smith in that way. So, the Eagles can just match up in so many different ways against you that the Cowboys have to be ready to show things that they haven't quite, been able to prove yet. And of course they will before any of these Eagles games even come across the schedule, since they're both a little bit later on. But I think just for the versatility that Philadelphia has and the chip on their shoulder of the last Super Bowl and trying to repeat as division winners for the first time any NFC's team has done that since I think 03-04, and they were the team that did it. So there's a lot going for the Eagles to, really want to stick it to the Cowboys more than ever again this year. And the way they can line up and be multiple on both sides of the ball is a challenge for both McCarthy and Quinn.
And last but certainly not least, Danny, is it the Eagles? Is it the Bills? Who is the toughest opponent? Or is it neither one of those that the Cowboys will face?
No, it's the Eagles. I mean, even before the draft, they were a good team. And now you look at how they use their draft resources. I thought they had an outstanding draft. To me, it's always going to be about Jalen Hurts. He's the wild card. I think they have a lot of talent around him, so that he doesn't have to be great. But if he is, I think that's just real trouble for the Cowboys. If he's not, though, and teams start to figure him out, that's going to change things up a bit. So there's certainly a range of outcomes that could be favorable for Dallas. We never got to see Prescott and Hurts go at each other last year because they were each not playing in a game. But no, it's Philadelphia for me. But I'm going to change my answer as the toughest four. After listening to everybody, I think the toughest 4 games. Hey, I'm glad you're muted, Jess.
You were doing so good. I gave you a look of disappointment there. You were doing so good. Okay.
What see what he has to say.
I hope you're not disappointed with this answer, but I think the toughest 4 is going to be starting at the wild card game to the Super Bowl. I think that will be the toughest games for the Cowboys, and you know what? Hopefully, this is the year that we get to see that, and so I hope I redeem myself, Jess.
Yeah, that's a bad boy banter.
Danny, oh my goodness. I'm so proud of you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen Danny Phantoms start from the bottom all the way rise to the top. I mean, we saw it right before our eyes the last hour. Real quick, before we go, I do want to read off the Eagles schedule to you guys if you haven't gotten the chance to look at it yet. And no, we're not sitting here talking about, oh, the Eagles are so good. The Eagles are so good because we like the Eagles. No, this pains us to say. It's not like we enjoy talking about this, but so you guys are aware going into the season. So real quick, week 1, the Eagles will be in New England facing the Patriots. Week 2, Thursday night game. They're at home against Minnesota. Week 3, they're in Tampa Bay facing the Bucks. Week 4, and that is a Monday night game. Week 4, Sunday night against the Commanders at home. Week 5 against the Rams in Los Angeles. Week 6 against the Jets in New York. Very interesting matchup there as well. Week 7, we are looking at they head to Miami. Again, a Sunday game there. And then week 8 against the Commanders in Washington. Week 9, as we know, against Dallas in Dallas. Their bye week is week 10. Week 11, they play Monday night in Kansas City. Week 12, they play in Buffalo. So that is a Sunday game as well. Week 13, they play in San Francisco. Week 14, they play against the Cowboys, of course, in Dallas. The first one in week 9 is at home for them. Forgot I was reading the Eagles schedule there for a second. Week 15, a Sunday game in Seattle. Week 16 against the Giants in New York. Week 17 against the Cards at home, in Arizona, and then week 18 against New York in New York. So a little bit of a whirlwind schedule for them as well when you're looking at it. Not an easy feat for them as well. So going to be interesting to see how things shape up for them this season. We have a commenter here saying L. So they're predicting a loss for every single one of those games, and I love that from them. But of course, we have to end this with announcing who the winner is. I don't think it's to anybody's surprise. Danny, congratulations. You're the BTB Roundtable champion for the week because, again, with that final answer, you just did the mic drop. I mean, how could I not do that at that point? That got you all the points. And how do you feel? You really, again, you redeemed yourself to the maximum extreme tonight. How do you feel?
Well, I feel surprised. I wasn't looking good early. I also feel a little sneaky. To throw that in there. So, but you know what? I don't come on these roundtables to tie and share the love with everybody. You come in here to win, and that's what we're hoping the Cowboys do this season. So no, it feels good. It's great to have this conversation with all y'all, and I'm just hoping that some of the things we said today is come to fruition, and we see another good season from the Cowboys.
Sean, how do you feel about Danny winning? You had a little bit of a head start early on. How do you feel that, again, he was kind of like a snake. He came up from behind and he just got you and he took your lead. How does that make you feel going into the rest of your evening?
The comeback effort was inspiring. I will be inspired the rest of my evening to, find that same type of energy to come from behind, just like Danny did, and not lose morale. So, I pulled a Kellen Moore on all of us. I started fast and faded down the stretch. So, I'll have to learn from that. But Danny, you earned this one. Well done, and good job to all of you tonight.
Brian in the comments says that Tom was robbed. Tom, do you feel like you were robbed tonight? Do you feel that way?
I always approach this as the points don't matter and the rules are made up anyway. So I don't care.
Things that losers say.
I didn't say that.
Well, gentlemen, we're gonna have to log off here before we start getting some fighting words going more than we have. But as always, I'm gonna go around the round table. Where can the people find you all and your incredible work that you put in and day out? Because you're incredible at it and because you love to do it. Tom, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at TomRyleBTB, as long as the app keeps functioning out there, which is always kind of a day-to-day concern. And I also have a podcast with my good friend Roy White. We do that on Thursday afternoons normally, called Riled Up. He chose the name, not me. And so hopefully everybody will give us a listen.
Sean, where can the people find you?
Hey, at Sean Martin NFL, as Tom said, Twitter is still a thing. So as long as it is, go ahead and hit that follow button. And I get to be a part of the setting the table on Mondays for the podcast network. You got your show, and then you got First and 10, and then we wrap it up. Mark Lane and I do with Hidden Yardage. So really fun to record that with him. And in the off season, it takes a whole bunch of different turns. He gave me the floor to do a whole segment on the ACM awards last time, and I was kind of oddly proud of myself for actually knowing what I was talking about when it comes to music. I've come a long way with that. So in the off season, it's ACM awards and such, but of course in the season, it's post game type analysis, which is even better. So looking forward to that. But yeah, Hidden Yardage as your Monday afternoon podcast on all the BTB platforms.
Love that for you. We are rooting for your ACM knowledge. Danny, where can the people find you, our winner, our champion? Where can the people go and just congratulate you today?
Well, you can find all my fine work over at Blogging the Boys. And you can find me on Twitter at DannyPhantom24 if you want to engage with me. There's only a 15% chance that you will be ridiculed. So I welcome all people.
That feels low.
I may have I may have lowballed that number there. But and also you can find me and my podcast partner, the professor of footballology, Rabble Rouser, to ease into your weekend every Friday with the Star Seminar. So, just come check us out.
Well, love talking to you guys. I'm at JustinBars_ on Twitter. I do the daily podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this off season. Barring tomorrow, you will not get a daily. I had to make sure to throw that in there because I am hosting this roundtable tonight. So you got to hear plenty of me for the day. And yeah, other than that, I do the Writer's Block with Brandon Laurie on Tuesdays. Make sure to tune into that as well. Fun stuff there. So, gentlemen, with that being said, I'm so sad to say our goodbyes, but so happy that we had to have this conversation. All good things must come to an end. So with that, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys real soon.